I'm still on screen. Oh, I'm supposed to be on screen. We're live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is I, your host, still not Adam Schefter, a.k.a. McLateral, at McLateralFF on the Twitter. I have my blazer. I'm really going to lean into this professionalism thing, see how it goes. Oh, man. Been a crazy week. Non-football, football, a little bit of both. If you're anything like me, you spent a lot of last week trying to create the perfect March Madness bracket. And if you're a lot like me, you spent pretty much 1 hour of Thursday going, well, this is crap. Because that went away real fast. Should still be a good rest of the tournament, but who would have thought that the crazy season would have all the upsets? You know, in retrospect, maybe should have leaned into that a little more. But that's not the only thing that's been crazy so far this week. Of course, we are still in the heat of free agency. Had some movement. Galladay finally going somewhere. Not before the Giants, of course, brought in John Ross, the real wide receiver number one you got to watch out for there. That's the guy they were looking for the entire time. Trust me. They still have the problem, of course, of Danny Dimes maybe not being able to throw the ball. So we'll see how that goes. Had some other movement, some other wideouts moving. Will Fuller now in Miami. If you read my most recent article for the Lateral, you'd see that not such a big fan of that one. Doesn't have a ton to do with him. It's more so that Tua is going to be a downgrade for him at quarterback pretty much, even if Tua is really good. And so that 17.2 points per game is going to be really tough to repeat. And that's, you know, of course, even if Will Fuller's season wasn't completely built on a house of cards over alleged, sprinkle the allegedlys on there, PED use. I think we're going to need to remember that one come draft time, people. He never completed a full healthy season. Then he took performance-enhancing drugs and completed a full healthy season. I don't want to necessarily connect the dots, but let's just say they kind of go in a straight line. Anywho, before I get into any more legal trouble, I guess I should introduce our guest tonight. We're being invaded from the Great White North, Canada. It is the True North Fantasy Football team joining us. We got Nate Williams. We've got John Smokey. We've got technical issues because they're not being brought onto the stream yet. Oh my God, but here they are. What's up?
How's it going?
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Can't complain. How's it going for you guys? How's life treating you in the colder climates, as it were?
It's getting warmer. I like it.
It's actually beautiful today, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so Josh, you're on Vancouver Island, right?
Bingo.
So a little more temperate there, I'd imagine, being surrounded by all the agua, all the water.
Oh yeah, man. And honestly, I live below the 49th parallel, so there's a lot of Americans that live more north than me. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I got to drive 45 minutes north just to cross the 49th.
Yeah, I remember when they were having the Winter Olympics there, like the issue was like, okay, we're going to have the Winter Olympics. Cool. We're going to have them in Canada. Okay, makes sense. We're going to have them in the one place that doesn't have snow. Why would you do that? Oh, anyway, guys, it is a blast to have you on here. I cannot wait. So, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, though. You are not from Canada. You are from just south of the border over in Michigan. Contributor over, of course, though, at True North Fantasy Football, at True North FFB on Twitter. And you're also a contributor at Sons of Dynasty, at Dynasty Sons. You want to just sprinkle in a little what you do there?
It's just a solid group of people. A few of us are at True North, and we just kind of work together on ideas and some podcast things and stuff like that.
Okay, then you also do a lot of work over at Going for Two, which is at going4_2 over on Twitter. You're editor there. You don't do the fantasy football as much. It's more NBA and NASCAR DFS.
Yeah, I try to keep it exclusive because I like so many different types of fantasy sports. You know, I keep the fantasy football to True North and Dynasty Sons, and then I do the NASCAR and NBA DFS at Going for Two.
And it would be easy enough if that was all you do, but you do even more. You're a Detroit Lions content creator for @Detroit Jock City on Twitter, which is, I believe, part of Fansided, if I'm speaking correctly there. And then you also do some pro wrestling content on top of that for Fansided. So really, jack of all trades. I'm assuming master of some, because the content that I have read has been fantastic. But let's move on to our other illustrious guest, Josh Smokey Nelson @TNFF_Smokey, our first international guest as well. Breaking through all the barriers tonight. Co-host of the Jet Sweep Show @Jet Sweep Show on Twitter with Will Harris, who, if you want to follow him, he's @It's Harris Time on Twitter. Excellent piece of merch. Love the branding. And then also host of the Smoke Show podcast @the_smoke_show. And I think we're going to get a little into more of what that'll entail later in the show, but I'm excited. I've gotten a vibe for the concept. I've listened to it's like, I'm definitely excited. Ooh, a little plug for the merch right there. And then of course you are also a contributor at True North Fantasy Football. That's why we have you here with your boy Nate. So let's get right into the serious issues, though. How are you not a Canucks fan, Josh?
Oh, fuck the Canucks. Oh, can we swear on this? I didn't even ask. Is that cool?
Yeah, you can swear. As long as it's about the Canucks, you can swear. This is a strictly Red Wings live stream right here.
Interesting fact for you: the Detroit Red Wings originated in Victoria, BC.
I did not know that.
I did not know.
Yeah, there's a little knowledge for you boys.
Little knowledge dropped right in there. But so seriously, what is your hockey team?
Oh, my hockey team. I'll show you my hockey team.
Oh man. He's a filthy
goddamn
animal.
Philadelphia Flyers.
just curious. I don't mean to throw stones in the glass house we're in right now, but have you ever been to Philadelphia?
Not once. It is on the bucket list, but yeah, no.
I got to tell you, in all honesty, you'd be an even bigger fan if you had. I lived in Philly for a couple of years. I'm a former Temple University student, so spent a couple glorious years on Broad Street with the rest of the bullies. Flyers fans are a good time. I got to say, while I hope they never win things, they're a good time.
Yeah, we're something.
and then Nate, I'm kind of curious. You live in Michigan. You're not too far from the Canadian border. What are some Canadian things that kind of bleed over into Michigan? Some maple leaf themed items that exist in your day-to-day life.
Well, we definitely have the hockey connection. Detroit's well known for its hockey, and we get a lot of the leftover snow that doesn't make it up there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess there are better things. Like, do you at least get poutine? I feel like if you're not getting poutine, like, is it even worth it?
Yeah, I've never had that, actually. I've already been
What?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of flack for that.
As you should. Poutine is amazing. Like, if Canadians weren't already awesome and nice and had other awesome, nice things, like, poutine alone would make them necessary to be on this earth. It is phenomenal. I don't know. Actually, Smokey, you got any poutine recs for anyone who might be going over to Vancouver in the near future? Any spots you like to go?
Yeah, if they're going to actual Vancouver, there's a bunch of food trucks downtown that do like just the craziest poutines you can ever imagine. But if you're doing poutine, make sure you have proper cheese curds, man. Get them from Quebec. It is the best. Like those shits, those little shits, they better squeak in your mouth against your teeth. That's how you know it's real.
This is very true. Having gone to Montreal, that was some of the best, easily the best poutine I've ever had in my life.
The best comfort food too, man. Just makes you feel good.
Montreal has some amazing food. Cannot recommend it enough, including ketchup chips. Any thoughts here, Nate? Maybe is that something Canadian that you've gotten to experience?
I haven't yet. Trav's been working on me. I've got to get them guys to send me some because I do want to try them. I've never had them, unfortunately.
Okay. Smokey, you got any thoughts on the ketchup chips? You seem like you're pretty pro ketchup chip. You got a particular brand you go to?
Oh yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, when you ask Canadians, it's usually, I mean, the default answer is Lay's. That is like the
Okay.
go-to, but it's
Fair,
not
fair.
my go-to. Potatoes and ketchup, natural pairing. But for me, it's the Doritos ketchup.
That is the
Man.
correct answer. I am so happy you said that. We did not plan this at all. That is the correct answer. So no joke. I go to Toronto with my girlfriend. We're like, just going to spend July 4th in Canada, as Americans are wont to do. And when I was in Montreal earlier that year, I gotten my hands on the Doritos ketchup chips. And I tell her, I'm like, these things are amazing. You got to have some. And so we got some. And she's like, you're right. These things are amazing. We got to have some more. And so then we drove by a Costco on the way home, and we literally filled my car with Costco-sized bags of the Doritos ketchup chips. And they lasted like a month. That was it. They were gone.
That's how come it took you so long?
There were a lot of bags.
Well played though, man. Yeah. Doritos ketchup. That's the ketchup chest, man. That's where it's at.
Awesome. Well, True North Fantasy Football is also absolutely where it's at. So I wanted to ask you guys, Nate, we'll start with you. What drew you to working with True North Fantasy Football?
I'll tell you what, it couldn't have worked out any better because I actually took about 3 years off from writing up until the start of this season. So I got in touch with some people at Detroit Jack City. That was one of the first sites I worked for, and went back covering the Lions. And I started dabbling in fantasy again. I did a little bit of content there, but I was really keeping my eyes open for something I could be a part of, something I could help grow. And I came across True North and talked to Trav a little bit and started talking to the guys. And it's just been a great fit, man. It's like a family there. Everybody's dedicated. They're all smart. They're funny. They welcome you in, great. And there's big things coming. And I'm so happy to be just a part of that and something that I can help contribute to build the site.
And do you think working with Smokey makes you like it more or makes you want to quit more? I'm like kind of curious where you sit on that fence.
It gives me more energy. He's full of energy.
You know what? I can see that. I respect the very diplomatic but honest answer. Smokey, what about you? What drew you to joining your fellow Canadians over there at True North?
Well, it's funny. I'm going to rewind the clock back 1 year today. And I was working a different job. I was in deliveries at the time in sales. So I was on the road, 6+ hours a day in between sales calls and all that. And I would just listen to fantasy football podcasts, like dozens and dozens per week. And eventually I got to the point where I was saying the answers to their questions before they were. I was just like, man, I kind of want to do this. So, I put together the original iteration of the Smoke Show, which dropped 10 months ago, coming up this Monday. And after one episode, I'd been following along with what Trav and Ty had been doing and some of the old crew that were there. And I loved it. And I was just so surprised because, I didn't know anyone around me on this island even played fantasy football. I thought there was maybe a couple dozen of us, let alone a fantasy football company based within an hour drive of me. I've gone down and met Trav. That guy is he's a slice of heaven on earth, man. I love that guy. But to find out that was on I had to be part of it. I had to. So it was my mission to get on True North. And after the first episode, he reached out and I didn't say no.
Smart man.
But it was amazing.
I
was just it's been so amazing. Like I said a year ago, I did not think that this is where I would be. I haven't even been doing this a year yet, and just the connections I've made, the people I've talked with, the collaborations I've done, podcasts, everything it's just crazy. But I love it.
That's awesome. Actually, speaking of collaborations, I was curious. My research, I couldn't quite figure it out. Have you guys actually done any work together over at True North? Any content, articles, anything like that?
Not yet, but we've got big stuff coming.
So we've got the first
Exclusive
crossover.
Yeah.
Well, we already did that with our boys Tyler and CJ, who are the Dynasty duo, and now they're dropping that fire every week with their podcast. So I'm not going to take credit for that, just like I'm not going to take credit for the fire you guys are going to be putting out here in the future. But if anyone wants to give me the credit, I'm happy to take it. Anything for when contract negotiations comes up, it's just really helpful. Okay. Well, so Nate, you said you actually are just getting back into writing or had gotten back into writing this past season. So how did you first get into writing? Was it about the NFL? Was it about sports in general, fantasy? Take me through the journey.
You got to go way back for that. Excuse me. It was probably 2011 or 12, somewhere right in there. I seen an opening for like a blogging position for a company called Sports Rant. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if there's around or not still, but it was a great company. I started doing some blogs and stuff for them, started writing for them. Made my way over to Detroit Jack City, actually, where I'm at now again. I was there for a while, became an editor there, and then Sideline Report, their Detroit Lions site, needed an editor, so I moved there. I ended up working for Hoops Habit, covering the NBA. Trip-sided, doing vacation destinations. Like, I just got to cover so many different sports in the fan-sided network, and it's a really great company. They're great to work for. And then I did get out of writing for probably about almost 3 years, I would say. I had some changes in my life, some personal stuff, and my kids were young, so I was more focused on that. But
understandable.
I was wanting to get back into it, and the right things just started happening. So I'm stoked to be back. It's been fantastic.
Awesome and great to hear. When did you start playing fantasy football then, or fantasy sports in general, since apparently you got your hands in a lot of different pots there?
Yeah, I started playing season-long fantasy football right around the same time, 2011, 2012. It was just like a standard league, your basic little thing, and played that for a while. I'm actually still in that league. That is my home league still. We've evolved kind of now to it's obviously what everybody else doing, the PPR thing, and
no touchdown only scoring anymore.
No, yeah, I've got them to have some keepers. We only got 3 keepers. I'm trying to convince them to do dynasty since we're all been there for 10 years, but I'm still working on that. So that's kind of where I got my start, though, was just your standard league with about 8 or 10 guys. But now it's evolved to where I'm in too many leagues, probably closer to 12, but I love it.
I think it's an all too familiar tale for a lot of the people we bring on the show. But if you aren't that passionate about it, why would you be doing it? I think that's the reason why, you have so many people in all these leagues. Is there another, I gotta say, is there another sport though, another fantasy sport that kind of gets your love? Maybe it's your guilty pleasure aside from the fantasy football.
It's got to be DFS of many kinds. I got into DFS probably about 5 years ago. My buddy talked me into playing a little bit of DraftKings, and I was honestly pretty hooked right away. It's a lot of fun being that you can essentially have different players every week. You don't have to worry so much about injuries, and there's an opportunity to win some money too if you're, you know what I mean? So I do.
Not to pry, but have you won some of the big bucks?
Yeah, I've won some money. I won't say how much. It's been in January I made a pretty good amount. But you go through rough spots too, you know what I mean? So if you go through a rough patch, you can't just quit. You just got to buckle down, grind harder.
Well, okay. So actually then, as long as we're on the subject, what are some things that you recommend for getting good at DFS, or if you're a first timer just getting into it from the start? What are the tips of the trade that you have for those listening?
The biggest thing that I learned in DFS is actually not even so much the players or rosters you're making. It's the tournaments you're taking place in. Everybody wants to spend that $4 and make $100,000. So you go to that tournament, but they pay out a lower percentage to the winners. So if you're just getting started, aim for some double ups and cash lines. You'll build a bigger bankroll or whatnot. Okay. And then really, really do your research on the tournaments, and maybe spend $5 where the top guy wins 500. You're not going to get rich and quit your job, but your odds of winning are a lot better.
Okay. So picking your spots definitely move. Is there a particular platform that you prefer to go with? I guess you had said DraftKings, correct, is where you had started. Yeah,
I play a lot of DraftKings. I've played FanDuel too, and I've recently gotten into Monkey Knife Fight through the guys at True North. So I haven't dabbled in the sports book thing too much yet, but it's something I'll get into soon.
Gotcha. And what are the scoring differences between those platforms? Are there particularly big ones, some that jump to the top of your head or anything?
I would say the biggest difference is the roster construction. They have different amounts of players on each one, or different amount of people you roster. So that's probably the biggest difference is the pricing of your players and whatnot.
And so I know analysis is really important to how you stay at the top of your game. Is there any particular sources of information other than yourself, but you have to get your information from somewhere as well? Where do you go to get that information that you then spin into the pure gold that you then send out to your readers?
Well, depending on, which sport I'm playing, there's like Pro Football Reference is great for your football stuff. There's actually like a driversaverages.com. If you're playing NASCAR, you can go there. I keep a lot of notes too. I do rely on my own stuff quite a bit.
Okay, so you're looking at raw data for the large part and then trying to synthesize that into your own takes, your own advice, your own strategies, rather than like going to certain other analysts, like seeing what they have to say. Like, not that you don't do that, but the big thing is trying to see like, okay, here's the raw numbers. What am I going to pick out from this?
Yeah, you want to pay attention to the opportunity, the injuries. Opportunity is a big thing in fantasy sports for every category, every genre that you play. So
absolutely. How do you go then? How do you go about building your perfect DFS football lineup?
Well, a lot of it's paying attention to injuries, like I said. You're going to miss too. You can't get discouraged. I try to look for value. There's players that will come down in price, but they're still producing at a great level. So when the prices drop, especially I've noticed in NBA, the prices will come down when they're still playing great. So I always try to look for the guys that their prices are lower than they should be, so to speak.
Okay. And do you have any recommendations as far as like maybe hopping on really early, locking in maybe a lower price? For like example with Atlanta last season, we had someone like Russell Gage who maybe wouldn't have cost as much early in the week, but then it turns out that like Julio's going to sit this one out. Russell Gage probably worth throwing in there. You've already locked him in at a lower price. Is that a strategy you advocate for?
That's actually a pretty good point too. Yeah, you definitely want to. I try to reserve my lineups like 4 or 5 days ahead of time. Or not my lineups, but my GPPs I'm playing in, because they fill up, and those are the best ones. Generally, they pay out the highest percentage to the people that are playing. So.
Awesome. Okay. And then some non-DFS stuff. I read your recent article on Jamal Williams and Swift's fantasy outlooks for 2021. Agreed with a lot of what you had to say there. And I think oddly enough, maybe weren't even bright enough on Swift, and you were pretty hyped on Swift. I just like what are your thoughts? I want people to go and check out the article, but if you can, like, kind of give us the elevator pitch on what you had to say there.
I've seen a lot of people online that were saying Swift, isn't a top 10 running back anymore because Jamal Williams came in. I don't think Jamal Williams is a bad player by any means, but he doesn't have the talent that Swift does. And the Lions' new head coach, Dan Campbell, fully believes in Swift, and he's going to give him the opportunities and the touches to produce. He's planning on having him line up in the slot, kind of similar to Kamara, stuff like that. So I would not get off of Swift by any means. If people are selling Swift in your league, I would 100% buy him still. I would be all over it.
So I was going to say, Smokey, you look like you are chomping at the bit to get in on that one. What are your thoughts on Swifty and not the singer?
No, that was just me. Oh, Taylor's just fantastic. That was me being Dan Campbell biting kneecaps there.
Yeah.
He is
Swift.
Crazy.
I am in on Swift, man. He was my RB2 coming out of that class last year, and nothing has changed on that. JT is still number 1, but Swift is a very, very close number 2. I've got a couple exposures to him on a couple Dino rosters, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, so I would say that personally, I think there's a lot of reason to be hyped on Swift, and whether you have him as high as you guys do or even a little lower initially, I don't know that there was a ton about Williams coming in that should make anyone change whatever their ranking happened to be. Like, if you had him at RB2, I don't know that like anything about Williams coming in should shift that. If you had him at RB4 for whatever reason, I don't know that Williams coming in should cause you to shift that in either direction. Williams, he's been trending down in his time in Green Bay. I think he's shifted to being a purely complementary piece. And then on top of it, like I looked at his contract in preparation after I got into Nate's fantastic article because I wanted to see his contract's worth less than Philip Lindsay and Gus Edwards' contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It's comparable to Mike Davis's contract. It's comparable to Devontae Booker's contract, and it's comparable to Mark Ingram's contract. And like, I am not worried about anyone we mentioned there.
No.
Correct.
Why would you be? You know
Right.
who was a top 5 running back the last 2 years? Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
He had a Jamal Williams. Did that
Literally.
affect him? Hell no. Hell no. So am I worried about Swift? Absolutely not. This is just a slightly younger Adrian Peterson coming in. It's just another guy, man. I'm not worried. I'm not saying Jamal Williams has ever been on the level of
I was like,
Adrian Peterson. Let me just put that out there right now.
No, you mean
No,
a
no.
younger version of the current Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
Not a younger
exactly.
version
Just
of prime Adrian
he
Peterson.
just came in and took the AP role that AP had last year. And you know what? It can have some production. I'm not gonna predict he's gonna be getting any more than AP did, but it's just a guy. It should not affect, like you said, positively or negatively. It should not affect your outlook on Swift.
Okay,
You know,
well,
the biggest thing I was disappointed about when Jamal Williams signed with the Lions was the fact that Kerryon Johnson's not going to get the potential to have some touches because I still think he's a talented player. You know,
Yeah, I want to
I
see
think
him
he
get
deserves
traded.
an opportunity. Yeah,
Him and Justice Hill, man, get those guys on a team that'll use them.
right.
Justice Hill is definitely a sore subject for some in the lateral circle, and those some are not me because I didn't quite buy in to begin with. But I gotta say I did buy in on Kerryon. Actually, I liked him coming out of Auburn. I think my concerns with Kerryon are twofold, and that one, previous regime. So Campbell's got no reason to care about what happens with Kerryon necessarily.
That's fair.
And then two, I don't know if he can physically hold up at this point.
That's my concern.
You really hesitate to throw the injury prone label on someone. I think that's something that like good fantasy analysts or even those aspiring to be good fantasy analysts have really come around on. It's like, okay, is a guy truly injury prone or is he picking up a series of bad knocks? And I think unfortunately in Kerryon Johnson's case, he may actually be injury prone.
Yeah, you could be right. Honestly, I just think I just wish he could get a little bit of an opportunity. You know, he's fun to watch as a Lions fan, separate from fantasy.
I totally get that one. I think Dan Campbell maybe, you know, especially getting him a little on the cheaper end with Williams. I think he maybe wants to see what he has and like,
Yeah, for sure.
he'll let Swift shine. And I think if Swift's going to shine, you don't need to worry about the running back by committee necessarily being quite as loaded with talent as it had been. Well, Smokey, let's transition into your work since we got you already ready to go. How did you start playing fantasy football?
It was about, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. I was bartending down in Victoria at this sports bar / comedy club. And the owner, who is 10 months older than me, he started up a fantasy league. He's like, hey, you want to try this out? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Whatever. I love the NFL. Always been a diehard Cowboys fan. And so he started it up, and I learned a very powerful lesson early. Don't draft with your heart, kids. Draft with your head.
Especially if you're a Cowboys fan.
When you load up on the Cowboys during that era, it was not a good time, man. Jason Witten, I mean, I love him. I'm like, salute for what you did for our franchise and everything, man. But you were never a huge fantasy producer.
real quick aside there, how did you land on the Cowboys? Was that like just a particularly invasive American franchise into Canada? Or I mean, are you a glutton for punishment? Did you think you were hitting on a front runner and like you just swung and missed? I want to know the theory.
No, this goes back many years. I have a brother who's 15 years older than me, and I will be 40 next year, so he's old as balls. And he's been a Cowboys fan since before I was around, and so I kind of inherited the team from him. And my first cross country trip, he lives out in Toronto. When I was 12, went by myself out to visit him, and he took me to see the Cowboys, and they were playing the first ever exhibition game outside of America in Canada. It was Cowboys versus the Bills. Yeah, summer '95. And the day before the game, there was an open practice down at the field. And you can go like right down to the field side there, get a bunch of autographs and shit. And as a 12-year-old kid, man, like, when am I going to get opportunities like this? This doesn't really, like, literally, this is the first time it's happened in Canada. Sure. So one of the players is just like, hey, if you want to get the rest of the team's autographs, this is the hotel we're staying at. There might be some players, milling up out of the lobby or whatever. And we're like, yeah, for sure, whatever. And so we're like, fuck it, let's go. So my brother, his best friend, and me, we go to this hotel, and sure enough, there's a bunch of players in the lobby and everything. And I look over, and just sitting in the lounge chair there is Hall of Fame running back Emmitt Smith. And I've got his rookie card on me, like literally physical rookie card in my hands. And I'm like, okay. So I've always been a very respectful person. So I go over, and I'm 5'7", $160 right now. Just picture me when I was 12. I was very slight of frame, we will say. So I go over to Emmitt Smith, and I look at him, and I said, excuse me, Mr. Smith. I was wondering if I could get an autograph, please. And he looks at me and goes, puts his headphones on, and fucking looks the other way. And I was crushed, absolutely crushed. Like, that's terrible. How do you do that to a little kid, man? I mean, it is what it is. I walk away completely dejected. I just, I don't even know what to do with myself. And so I see a bunch of people going towards the front lobby doors. There's like, those sliding glass doors. I'm like, okay, someone big's got to be coming in. So I kind of weasel my way to the front, which is very easy when you're very small. And the doors open up, and in walks Troy Aikman. And this was basically my reaction. And my hand just kind of goes up very meekly, and I'm just like, hi, Mr. Aikman. He shakes my hand and gives me a little smile, and, security's around and brings him up to his room. And I'm just like, holy shit, 2 Super Bowls, what this, man? Like, they'd still only had 2 at that point in the 90s, but, like, man. Yeah, it went from the worst moment to the best moment, but man, that solidified me as a Cowboys fan for life. Sorry, I went on a bit of a diatribe there.
No, I was honestly, I was hoping that story ended with a Troy Aikman signed Emmitt Smith rookie card. That is where I was really hoping things would go. Sign the Emmitt Smith. It's a one of one, man. Troy Aikman's signature maybe worth more than Emmitt Smith's. A little F you to the hero that spurned you, but I mean. You at least got to meet Aikman. That's a big deal. That's awesome,
man. That's really cool.
So we know how you got into fantasy. We know how you got into football in general. How'd you get into content creation for fantasy?
I've always liked to write, and it's just a thing about.
It's a dangerous habit to have.
Right?
It's a dangerous habit to have.
But about 15 or so years ago, I did some work for an online music magazine that was based in Ontario while I was living in Vancouver. And basically, I'd just be going downtown 3-4 nights a week to check out shows and do
what kind of music?
Reviews. Anything. The Vancouver music scene then was just absolutely thriving before they started shutting down a bunch of the music or live venues and everything. Anyways, we won't get into that. But I'd just be doing, interviews, show reviews, CD reviews, a bunch of crap like that. And it was so much fun. I loved it. Interviewing has always been a thing that I just gravitated to. And, I had a very long career as a bartender as well and running restaurants and shit. And so, conversation's always been a thing. And it's always usually been the other person doing most of the talking. I elicit some information through I don't want to say penetrating questions, but
penetration usually is illicit.
But it's always kind of been a thing like that. So when it came to when I started my podcast, I'm like, once I got on with True North, I'm like, I kind of want to write something. And I was like, what do I write? Like, what do you do for your first article? I don't know my fucking ass from a hole in the ground. So I kind of went to the Twitter sphere, and I got some good advice, because my first article idea, what I was planning on doing, was like a first person narrative going through their first dynasty draft and stuff like that. Like, this is the writer in me coming out. Like, no one wants to read that bullshit. Just go and draft your own fucking team. And so there were several people that kind of steered me in a different direction. And I think my first one ended up being strategy guide to doing robust RB draft style, and going through what kind of my 3-tiered approach to it. Anyways, blah, 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 with the details. But guys like Matt Harmon, Nate Hamilton, a couple guys like that, Pauly Sleepers, I just want to shout those guys out. They were kind of the ones that steered me in proper directions in the beginning, gave me some good advice and everything. So I'm eternally grateful to those guys.
And real quick for the viewers at home, robust RB, you want to just expand on that strategy real quick, and then we'll get back into it?
Yeah, so it was kind of the big rage the offseason last year, to the point where people were just kind of raging against it. You know how the pendulum swings from one side to the other. It was firmly on the robust side. So it's basically, kicking essential positions down the road, because there is more variance in the tiers. So like last year's stats, I don't know what they are this offseason, but from wide receiver 1s to wide receiver 2s, you could get 83% of the production. From wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3, again, you could get 83% of the production. You cannot get that from running back 1 to 2, 2 to 3, so on. Quarterbacks, very similar. Tight ends, other than the top tier of gods like Kittle. I'm sorry, he's my favorite player in the league. It's hard to say that as a Cowboy fan.
As a Niners fan, I love me some Kittle. He is fantastic.
How can you not, man? He's electric.
My favorite non-Lions player.
Yeah, man. Like, if I was an NFL player, that's who I think I would be, man. He's just like, he loves what he does. You see the passion in him, man. Like, when he's laughing, hitting guys. Oh. Anyways, what were we talking about again?
We were talking about how you got into creating fantasy content at first.
Right.
Figuring out what types of articles to write, who to reach out, get some advice from.
Yeah, so when it came to coming on with True North there, I dropped that strategy article, and then I also did a regression article on CMC and how I said he should not be taken as the 101 last year. It was small sample size stuff, but basically it was just digging into the top running back performances of all time, how the follow-up seasons were, and 3 of those top 7 guys, they got injured the next season. And it might be a volume thing, it might not be, but I did not predict that he was going to get injured. I just said by the end of it, there's a chance that he will finish as the RB1. But if I'm sitting at the 101, fucking 100 times out of 10, I'm not taking CMC. And, I'm not going to victory lap an injury, but it worked out all right. But after that, it was just, we kind of got together as a team, and, you do the off-season planning, who's going to do what in season content and everything. And we were trying to figure out who's going to do start sits, and no one really jumped on. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. And so I was like, okay, well, what's something on brand that I could do that's, differentiating myself a little bit in the start sit. Sorry, I kind of gave that away. So mine was a start sit, which I called puff, puff, pass to, stay on brand. So there were for each of the position groups. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I like it. Sorry.
Yeah. So for each of the position groups, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, I had 2 starts and 1 sit. Each article is about, 1,400 words or so. And I dropped that every week during the regular season. And it was just kind of cool to see the evolution of my process, getting things dialed in, seeing trends a bit more, and kind of, seeing the forest for the trees type shit. But if you're doing proper process, you should be seeing some type of positive evolution in your analytical game. but yeah, so it was nice to kind of see that by the end. It was it was a grind. I mean, you always hear the analysts by the end of seasons, it's such a grind and everything. It's fucking true, man. It was pumping that out every week, in addition to doing the jet sweep show, in addition to being a husband, working a full-time job, having a toddler. It's a lot.
No, I definitely I get that. And I'm sure Nate more than gets that, especially with all the content he was doing. Like, I know for us over at the Lateral, like I was putting out an article probably 5 out of the 7 days of the week, just because like there was only 2 of us and we had to put out content.
That's crazy.
So what advice do you have? And actually, Nate, if you have anything to add, I definitely would love it if you jump in on the end of this here. What advice do you have for fantasy content creators? Like, what are the things that are like really important? Passion, staying on brand, but like, being professional at the same time, just anything that was really helpful to you.
Honestly, there's a couple things. Someone actually did a really good retweet of it earlier. They had like this little like 5 or 6 point list of like what kind of things you should be doing as an analyst if you want to succeed, or whatever your definition of that is. But for me, it's being true to yourself, man. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be Matthew Berry. Don't try to be Ray GQ. Don't try to be Matt Harmon. Don't try to be all these guys, these ladies, anyone, anything other than yourself. Be yourself. I know it's the like cheesiest, most dumb shit answer you can give, but it's so bloody true. Like, you think I'm trying to be someone here? This is just me. Like, this isn't me putting on a professional face. This is me speaking into a mic, wearing the same shit I do every day, talking about the things that I love to talk about. So find out what you're passionate about. Another kind of advice, if you're just getting into it, don't try to do everything at once. I mean, it's going to mean you're mediocre at many, if not all things. Try to have a focus at first. For me, last year, that was dynasty strategy and startups. After that, in season, like I said, it was start-sit decisions. I kept it simple. That was something I could control and see positive evolution in. If you're spreading yourself too thin, especially in the beginning, you're going to either burn yourself out or just be disinterested, because it's so hard to really focus your passion in so many different places unless you're like me and drink a pot of coffee for breakfast. But that's not even a joke or anything.
Nate, you seem very much in agreement on all this.
So it's perfect. Find your bread and butter. You know what I mean? Don't worry about trying to put out X amount of articles this week. Worry about the quality of the 1 or 2 you put out. Definitely find your bread and butter.
And a pot of coffee, apparently.
Yeah, and your pot of coffee.
But another thing is just repetition, man. Like, when a wide receiver wants to improve his hands, what does he do? Go get on the jugs machine, man. It's reps, man. As far as, like, how do I put this? Practice what you want to be good at. Absolutely. Kind of further to my point before, don't spread yourself thin. Find a couple focuses at most and just, practice those. But also, that's just going to make you kind of a run of the stream. You're not going to stand out other than, personality wise or anything like that. But if you really want to be well rounded in your skill set, I'm going to give you one of my life mottos. Don't play to your strengths, play to your weaknesses. And soon enough, you will not have any. So while you're keeping your focus on that, practice the other things. For me, I like to do things for a full year before I actually put them into effect when it comes to fantasy. So like 2 years ago is when I started my dynasty research. Just dynasty, and I see nothing of it. I did not play it at all for a full year. Okay. I wanted to go into it, see it, see how it operated, see strategies and everything like that, really get a grasp of it before I dove in. And, dove in like fucking crazy this last season, as we are all apt to do. And now this year coming up, it's going to be best ball, which I was, reading all up in strategy, everything like that for the past season and everything, and seeing, how it operates and everything. And, there's some great resources in True North, man. When it comes to best ball and stuff like that, holy, all these guys are so much smarter than me. It's so nice.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have some smart people over at the Lateral looking at best ball. I think that's something that really intrigues us. So I think Zach, one of our new contributors over at the Lateral, I think he's going to be taking a look at best ball over this offseason. And we are actually going to have a best ball show league. We're like, what would be the most sideways fantasy football league for the Lateral to do? Best ball. Best ball, absolutely. Totally the move. And so it was actually really cool, like going onto your guys' website, seeing that you do have that section devoted to best ball. I think like Dynasty, not to say better, worse, same, different, like Dynasty is very in vogue right now. And I think best ball will be a very interesting space where people looking for a challenge are going to start going into. And again, not to say that Dynasty isn't insanely challenging. It is. You can like probably play for the rest of your life and still have tough times in a given league. You'll find some sort of wrinkle, like there will be the next Superflex or the next tight end premium, or you'll it's fantasy. There's a whole range of things you can do to make it as exciting or dull as you want it to be. But I think best ball is going to be an area where we start to see things getting exciting. And somewhere else where things are going to get exciting is the Smoke Show's coming back. Your podcast is getting a reboot. I saw the interview with Adam Rank that you had up on the YouTube. How was that? That looked like it was a ton of fun.
Oh man, you know what? Adam Rank is an absolute saint. He was just honestly, he was the easiest person I've ever talked to. He's so nice, and it was just I could sit here and sing his praises for the rest of the show, to be perfectly honest. But it was natural, it was comfortable. We had a quick little bullshit before I pressed record on that, and we did that whole thing in one take, and there was maybe 10-15 minutes of bullshit afterwards, and we've kept in touch since. He's an absolute gem of a human.
That's awesome. And hey, if he ever wants to come on the Lateral Weekly Variety Hour-ish, he is always welcome to shoot the shot right there, as it were. Okay, but I really like the idea of what you're doing there. You're going to have some micro interviews, and then you're going to have the longer interview. I saw some similarities there with what we're trying to do here. Like, I want to bring you guys on because you guys are going to have such a unique, such a diverse, frankly, on a fair amount of things, better perspective. Like, I can't speak to shit about DFS, but Nate here, like, it'll be great to have Nate come on and talk about DFS. And that'll be way more valuable to my viewer, to my listener, to the people who want the content that I'm providing. Cause I can go, look, you like what I have to say? This guy's got my stamp of approval. He's going to know way more than I do. Come check out this guy. And, with stuff like interviewing, with stuff like content creation, like Smokey, you've got a lot of experience on that front. So it's like, bring in him, have him talk about that, like gain a lot of perspective that me sitting here, it's like, it's going to be boring. Am I going to have enough to talk? Yada, yada. It's like, let's get some experts in here. So I love what you're doing there, and keep it up. 1,000%.
I don't know if I go as far as expert, but I will take the compliment. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Expert adjacent, if nothing else.
Hey, Jason, man, that's still a win in my books.
Well, so what advice do you have for an interview novice?
For interview, again, it's just what's some really good advice I heard lately. It was people are coming to this to hear them, not to hear you. So I make sure in my interviews, like I gave you a little sneak preview of the first episode that's going to be launching on Monday the 29th, coming up here. Relaunch the Smoke Show. And
check it out on Spotify.
Yeah, and if you listen to it, when I do the micro interview sections, I kind of say my little blurb in the beginning, and then it's just those interviews that play. You don't really hear my voice much at all throughout the entire podcast. I'm here to give people a platform to give their perspective, because if if it's just a one-on-one thing, or if you just have a regular co-host, I'm not saying it can get stagnant, but you're having one opinion versus another opinion, which it can be malleable. But opinions can change and everything, but it's still the perspective of one versus the perspective of another. With me, I want to bring perspectives from all different sides, from all different angles, to really give you a more all-encompassing picture. And I'm just there to be a narrator, presenter, ringmaster, if you will. But they don't come there to hear my voice. So when it comes to interviews, keep your questions succinct, short, sweet, to the point, and really make sure that question is leading them somewhere. You're trying to open up into them. If you want to find out something, don't just plainly ask. I mean, you can plainly ask it if you're if that's your blunt kind of style with it. But as you've warmed up a guest, you can really pry into them a little bit, and just get those penetrating questions that I alluded to earlier, and really see where it opens up. Like when I'm doing interviews, I script everything down to the last word. With the Adam Rank interview, I only had 7 questions. We went for an hour and a half. And because with each of those questions that I asked, I kind of did the interview in my head dozens of times before we actually did it, and just tried to think of any possible outcomes the answers could have, and plan follow-ups that could happen because of that. So when it's on the spot like that, like I said, we only do one take. There's no editing, anything like that. So you have to be on. I don't want to do any edits or anything like that. So just make sure that you're saying the right things. Be succinct, short with your stuff, and make sure it's getting them somewhere. Don't just ask a general thing that they can just kind of meander with. Give them direction, steer them.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think it's incredible advice. I think stuff that even I can take myself. It's stuff that I actually have taken in general as I've gone along, and we've put out more and more episodes of this show. I think one thing that you touched on for sure was that, like, make sure you're not the main voice if you're going to do an interview thing. And that's tough. Like, part of the reason we get into this content creation business is because, like, we want people to hear our voice. Like, that's right. Why we're doing this. And so it's really hard to take that back seat and go, like, but not right now.
Yeah, totally.
And speaking of hearing some voices, Nate, I feel like we haven't, like, gotten as much advice from you, and I feel like you're that same font of information as Smokey. Plenty of expertise to go around. Is there anything, I know he already touched on so much, but is there anything that he didn't touch on that you would want to add for someone who's getting into content creation, someone who wants to get better at it, etc.?
I'm honestly sitting here and learning. I've done no interviews. It was something I literally thought about at work today, so that worked out great for me. And kind of going back to the best ball thing, I've never played best ball, but I've been learning from the guys at True North, so I'm looking forward to that. As far as getting into the content creation thing, I would say don't be afraid to get your feet wet. There's plenty of sites that are looking for contributors. You're not going to – good chance you won't make a bunch of money doing it right away, but if it's a passion, just get your feet wet, talk to people in the community. There's a ton of great people out there, so Twitter can be used for a lot of good things too.
Theoretically, I've heard that that's the case. Yet to see if it's true or not. Though without Twitter, wouldn't have you guys here today. So that's certainly got to count for something. Okay, well, this is a variety show, so we got to have some variety. Let's get into some group segments, a little bit of gamesmanship, if it were. DFS darlings, we're going to go around the horn here. We'll start with Nate. Nate, as the DFS expert, who are your DFS darlings? I know it's super early, but some guys you think are going to possibly be good values week in, week out in DFS in 2021.
The one problem with DFS is you can't really work months ahead of time because we have no way of knowing the pricing on these guys. The DFS sites use algorithms that include ownership percentages from the last week, as well as stats from, a couple games ago or whatever. So it's impossible to know really far ahead of time what the pricing will be. But I will say that early in the season is a great time to get into it because there is no algorithm right away. So you're going to find guys that are good values, especially a lot of these rookies. We got a pretty loaded class coming out, and there'll be plenty of, cheaper people to choose from as far as setting your roster.
Okay, well, so since we've had some free agent movement, we may have an idea of maybe where some rookies will go. For week 1, at least, is there anyone where you're going, okay, obviously this may not prove to be the case come week 1, but is there someone where you're going like, I think maybe this guy, like a Quintus Cephas, for example, like he's not going to probably cost me a ton of money and I might be able to slot him in and get some production. Is there anyone like that you think week 1 that kind of comes to the top of your head?
I haven't looked at the schedule yet, or I have, but I haven't really memorized it, so to speak. But I don't have a certain guy at this point, but I would say look at the schedule, look at the quality of the defense they're playing. That's another great thing. With Cephas, I was pretty high on him a couple weeks ago. I've kind of cooled off on that a little bit, but he's still going to have opportunity. That wide receiver core is pretty weak. So any of those guys, could end up being the wide receiver 1 after the draft. We'll figure out a little more, but I would say some of the Lions receivers would be a great start there.
Yeah, I think I saw on the Lions depth chart earlier, someone tweeted this out, that Quintus Cephas was actually the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 on the depth chart. So I think they're really going to start working him this year.
Well, the hope is
time will tell.
The hope is Swift is the wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Well, Smokey, what about you? Again, obviously taking into account the caveats, though I think Nate dropped some really good advice into how you handle your DFS going in to 2021 as well, talking about the algorithms, like getting a little behind the scenes on it. But is there anyone that you think may be a good value, at least that week 1, or something that you would look for?
Well, DFS actually stands for Don't Follow Smokey if you're looking for help in daily fantasy. I have some great resources like, Nate and a couple other guys. Scott Simpson's another good one there. Bo. I don't know shit about shit when it comes to DFS, and I don't pretend to. But like I said, I have great resources for that, which greatly helps if I ever did decide to dip my toes in the water. But like Nate said, it's great advice for any realm of fantasy. Check out the defenses, man. That's going to be a huge one. That was huge in my start sit columns and all that. That was the first thing I looked at. I mean, it's the first thing you should be looking at. Come on, who are they going up against? What's the opportunity? And look for values as well. Like, for instance, what do you think Julio Jones is going to be worth in DFS this year? He's getting so disrespected right now. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what it is in the DFS circles, but like in other fantasy realms, he's getting so disrespected, man. Like ninth round pick, man.
But in a dynasty league,
yeah, but still,
yes. But I just want to make sure we're talking about like a dynasty league here, because otherwise someone's really on something.
No, but that's the thing. I'm seeing like just the craziest values out here, and like he is getting so disrespected. I'm gonna have so much of him, and you know what? For that kind of value, he's gonna be worth it. So I think, like I said, like Nate said, look for the values, man. That way you can throw a couple studs in your lineup, get those stacks going. That's about the extent of my DFS knowledge. So.
Still, it's good knowledge. Nate, you seem to be in agreement there on the Julio situation. What are your thoughts for Julio looking at just 2021?
I think that's a really viable point on Julio for DFS. He's getting majorly disrespected, and he's going to come in the next season, hopefully healthy, at his best he's been, in a year. So that's great for DFS, especially early in the season. It's great.
Especially with Trey Lance throwing the ball to him.
I can't wait to see how that unfolds.
I don't think Trey Lance will start. I think Matt Ryan will start, even if they draft Trey Lance. And I think right now it looks like they may trade down. I think that's a real serious possibility. I think they re-signed Matt Ryan thinking they can get something out of Matt Ryan. But with the Julio thing, I've seen this going around Twitter a lot. Who will be the next year's Stephon Diggs? I think there's a chance it's Julio. I think there's a chance Julio is the guy who gets slept on and then severely outperforms expectations. Will he be wide receiver 3 like Stephon Diggs was this year? Or actually, was Stephon wide receiver 1? I can't remember. Either way, top 3 no, Devontae was number 1. It's all flooding back to me now. I think Diggs was number 3. But with Ridley there, is it reasonable to expect Julio to have wide receiver 3? No, but could he be a wide receiver 1? Could he be top 12, top 10? It's not impossible. There will clearly be enough volume to go around to feed at least 2 of those guys. And I think it's not like in Jacksonville where they have 3 guys that Urban Meyer could go like, I view these 3 equally. Like Calvin Ridley and Julio are the clear 1-2. Russell Gage is not taking away targets from those guys. Russell Gage is getting whatever Russell Gage gets. So I think that will be interesting. But we have some free agents that we think will be interesting as well. So Nate, again, we'll start with you, then we'll go into Smokey. Where do you think these free agents will land? I'll start with Antonio Brown.
I think there's a great chance he ends up in Baltimore. You know, I kind of got the feeling that Juju might go there, but that hasn't happened yet. So Baltimore's still looking for a receiver, and his cousin is Hollywood Brown. They are cousins, and he's talked about AB coming there. I think it's something that he wants to make happen. I think he'd be a great fit there.
All right, Smokey, who you got? Ravens. Oh, he's got the
Look at that. Bucks or Ravens. I lost it when you said Baltimore. No, I love that for the reasons you said, but I think there is a possibility. I don't know. Bucks seem to be just re-signing everyone right now. They're looking to make another run. There's obviously the connection with Brady. Brady is the only guy that seems to be able to tame this guy long enough to have him play football on a football field.
He's also the only guys with keys to the house.
True.
Like Antonio Brown's living with
that.
Right. If Antonio Brown wants to live somewhere, he's re-signing in Tampa.
Yeah, man. But like that's what you like, as bad as it is, that's kind of what you need to get that out of Antonio Brown. You need him handled. So it did. Like, he looked good out there, man. Like, caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think he might end up there or the Ravens. Like I said, I had both those written down. Yeah, I did my handwritten notes, Nate.
Proud of you, buddy. He had 483 yards in 8 games last year. But like you said, Smokey, he needs a good quarterback throwing the ball. Today I heard a rumor that Wilson wants him to come up to Seattle and play. And so far the Seahawks aren't seeming like they're going to make that happen, but maybe that's the way that they can, pacify him, being that he's unhappy. Maybe they bring him in up there in Seattle. Who knows?
I actually had a side bet going for when he was coming back into the league last year. I had Seattle as my pick, and Buddy went with Ravens. So obviously that was a wash. But yeah, I don't hate Seattle. I think that's a better fit than the Ravens. You're going to see, hopefully, a higher passing volume up there. But yeah, I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, I think those are really good answers. I think my one thing with Seattle would be that as a team that has indicated they want to run the ball more. So
yeah,
the idea of them
bringing out of there.
It's like
they said they want to go back to the run. So that's, in my opinion, bad news for DK and them other guys too. It's disappointing.
But great news for Chris Carson, who just re-signed there. A running back who hasn't re-signed, though, James Conner. Nate, where do you think that the currently former Steelers running back is going to land?
In my opinion, I think a good fit would be Jacksonville. So they would have somebody to back up Robinson there, James Robinson.
Oh, okay. You think Conner shows up as a backup?
I think that would be his best suited role at this point, honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why do you think that? I'm genuinely curious.
I'm not exactly sure where his age is, but I know he's on the wrong side of 25, and he's had issues with his health. So I think if he played like a RB2 role on a team, he'd have a better chance of staying healthy and, being more productive on the field all around. That's just my opinion, though.
Okay. Smokey, what about you? You seem to have some agreement there.
I kind of like that answer better than mine. I had him returning to the Steelers because I don't think there's going to be much of a market for James Conner out there. And I think Nate's hit the nail on the head, man. It's going to be as a backup or an RB2 in a committee. I don't think he's going to start. So if he takes a discount to stay with the Steelers, because that's what's going to have to take to stay with the Steelers, because they ain't got no money. But you know what? He's the hometown kid. He beat cancer. Like, there's a guy you root for. He's beloved in Pittsburgh. So I think that they will find some way to make it work, whether it's, backload or anything, is what it is. But that's my spot. But man, I like Nate's answer so much better. So when you're putting this in podcast form, just like pitch shift him up a couple octaves and like just paste his answer over mine.
Hey man, it's like with your thing, no edits. We do it live. So unfortunately, you stuck with it. Just like you're gonna be stuck with whoever you choose for this running back, though I have to say, I'm a little surprised that I haven't heard any Miami or Atlanta coming up for Mr. Connor. So maybe this is where you'll have this guy going. Leonard Fournette, another running back. And that's right, I did change the order from the show sheet up on you guys. So keeping you on your toes. Leonard Fournette, where do you think he's going, Nate?
I was actually talking to LQ over at Real Deal Fantasy about this either yesterday or the day before. And it was before they signed Burita today, but I could see him up in Buffalo. I think that would be fantastic. I think that'd be a great fit. It might pull away from Josh Allen's production a little bit, being he's the goal line back, so to speak, there right now. But it would also mean he has a better chance of staying healthy, not taking hits, running the ball into the end zone every time. But I think Buffalo would be great. Do I think it'll happen now? Probably not. But
for fans, backup.
I could see, like you said, Miami. I was hoping Seattle before Chris Carson resigned there, but that's dead in the water now. So, yeah, I could see Miami. Although I do think Miami drafts a running back in the first round. I think they're going to trade back and then draft a running back.
Okay. Not a bad call. Smokey, what about you? Playoff Lenny, Super Bowl Lenny. Where's he going?
I was going to say, I'm going to let it slide that you call me John at the very beginning of the podcast, but I will not let, I can't even say it right, Lombardi Lenny be told that his name is anything but Lombardi Lenny. I'm just kidding. I have no investment in him. Where I would like to see him go, Falcons. They're not going to have a ton to play. They're not going to have a ton to play with. He doesn't need to play for a ring anymore. He got it. So you know what? Take a discount, be part of a good offense, and have a chance to not run it back, but have a chance to make an impact. I think he wants to do that. I don't think he wants to be fighting with Rojo for time, anything like that. Just let him go. Let him do that. I think he'll be happy. I think the Falcons would be happy because they could, get him for a little 1-year discount or anything like that, like they did with Gurley last year. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta definitely still would have a move to be made. I think it could come through the draft. I think it could come through a free agent. My one thing with a free agent would be that they did just bring in Mike Davis. Not a ton of money, and I think most teams are probably pretty comfortable with Mike Davis being their RB2 rather than their RB1.
Correct.
So there's no reason that playoff Lombardi Lenny can't come in there and take over the lead role there, or at least a 1A to a 1B. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I'm curious to see what you guys are going to have to say about this one. It was going to be T.Y. Hilton, but he had to go and just stay in Indy.
No one wants to talk about T.Y. Get the fuck out of here.
Sammy Watkins, an equally uninspiring wide receiver. Nate, where do you have Sammy Watkins going? Will he finally be free from behind Tyreek? Is he going to go somewhere where he's productive? I gots to know.
I don't have a great prediction. I think he's another candidate for Baltimore, although I do think Antonio Brown ends up going there. One idea I had maybe was Philadelphia. Pair him with Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor. He could be a different little dynamic threat in that offense. So I don't have a great one, but that was the one I went with on this.
No, actually, I think that Philly one's fantastic. I would never have gone there. That's a great pool. Smokey, Josh, what do you got for me?
I don't give a crap, man. It's all love. For me, Sammy Watkins, maybe the pet store, lizard section. No, I'm just kidding, man. Don't melt my brain with your lizard powers, Sammy, if you're listening to this. How about 49ers? I mean, you're not expecting Sammy Watkins to go anywhere and lead an offense. Let him be a role player. Give him to someone who could use literally anyone out there to their maximum potential, and give him to Shanahan, man. Let's see what he can do with them.
He'd be a fun wide receiver 3.
That was the other team I wrote down, actually, was San Francisco.
Okay, so
see, me and Nate fucking simpatico, baby.
So I think this is the more important bit than the Sammy Watkins bit. You both seem to think San Francisco is going to bring in a wide receiver. Not necessarily a wide receiver 1 or anything, but a wide receiver.
Yep, correct. They've got Kittle, obviously, and they have Debo and Ayuk, which I love Ayuk, just throwing that out there. But I think they bring in another wide receiver. I firmly believe they will.
Yeah, for the record, it's Ayuk and then Debo. Like,
I agree. I agree.
That's the resident Niners fan. Let it be known.
I am a huge Ayuk fan. Yep, I just wrote it down backwards. That's my fault.
No, it's like the second he hurdled that dude in that Philly game, that's the second he hurdled Debo on the depth chart. That was it. Sky's the limit. Smokey, you're thinking the same thing then. You're thinking that the Niners are bringing someone in. You think possibly in that wide receiver 3 role. If it's not Sammy, is there anyone that leaps to your mind?
Not immediately. I mean, a lot of these kind of secondary and tertiary receivers are getting snagged up and everything. Like, Humphreys just went to Washington, which I think is fantastic. Like, I hate how much I love what they are doing with their roster. As a diehard Cowboys fan, it hurts my fucking soul. But, oh, man, I really like what they're doing there. I think, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to deal with Dan Snyder on a day-to-day basis. If you had to do that, you'd like it a lot less.
Truth.
There's a reason I'm a resident Niners fan and not a resident Washington fan. It starts from the top.
That's fair.
There's no shortage of ill will there. Though actually someone who probably has some goodwill towards Washington despite his exit is our last free agent that we're going to cover as far as where do we think the landing spots will be. Alex Smith, no longer the QB in Washington, somehow not the QB in Chicago, despite that being everyone's favorite landing spot for him. Nate, where do you think the comeback player of all time is going to go?
I have a pretty strong opinion that he will end up in Jacksonville also. He's got connections to Urban Meyer from the college days, and I think he'd be a fantastic mentor for Trevor Lawrence down there.
Yeah, I mean that could be it. I mean, Smokey, you got anything? I'm good.
Wow, that's so good. I'm underselling that. That was an amazing call, Nate. I love that. I absolutely love that. The answer I wrote down makes me want to just tear up, man. I put retirement, either retirement or the Titans as their backup. I think
interesting.
What are you gonna roll in with Deshaun Kaiser as your backup? Get out of here, man. He couldn't even be a backup in Cleveland. But no, I think he could be, just in case of, things happen. We see it happen all the time. It happened to Alex Smith, but going somewhere as kind of like that mentor role, I think is fantastic. Now, I mean, Tannehill's no spring chicken, so I don't think he totally needs that, but he's a good glue guy, man. He's good for a roster to have around. He's good for a locker room. So I like Nate's answer way more than mine.
I have to say, Nate, your answer was fantastic. I have no qualms with it whatsoever. Ed, Smokey, your answer really good as well. I think you touched on one point there, though, where Tannehill's not a spring chicken. I think Tannehill looks at Smith as more of a peer, less of a person to look up to. On the other hand, Smith would be a great, reliable fill-in for a team that thinks they can contend and thinks they also have their quarterback for years to come, which I think the Titans do. Mm-hmm. And so, could they view Tannehill himself as someone who could potentially pass some good traits on to a younger QB? Like Free Gardner Minshew came up across here. I know everyone seems to want to put him on the Niners, which I mean, like if he's the backup, like it's way better than what we had last year. I'd take it. But him in Tennessee would actually be kind of interesting backing up Tannehill. I think he'd be good enough to do it in a pinch. And I think he could definitely learn from Tannehill. I think there's actually a fair amount of similarities between the two. You know,
I like that too.
Slightly mobile quarterback, little big, you know, able to throw the ball. Like I could see Tannehill making a really good impression on him. But I like that Titans pull. I think that's definitely a potential landing spot. All right. Let's bring it down just a little. Oh, you know what? Let's keep it positive. Nate, favorite free agent move so far this offseason from a fantasy perspective? What made you just go, yes?
Well, I had high hopes that there was going to be a bunch. In my opinion, there wasn't. But the one I was most happiest with was definitely Curtis Samuel going to Washington. Going back to that.
Good one. It's a good one.
They've got McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. They've got speed, and now they have a gunslinger and Ryan. Nice. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick up there. So I'm very excited about that offense this year.
Smokey, I know it clearly. You have Curtis Samuel there.
We did not talk about this.
Literally on the same page.
Do you have anything to add? Do you have a pivot? I think there's an easy pivot you could actually make out of this one. I'm curious to see what you got. Hit me with your answer.
That was my fucking answer. Nate. Yeah, I don't know. Other really good free agent moves so far. I just like Nate said, there hasn't been a ton. Yeah, hit us.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I got one for you. How can you be excited about Curtis Samuel if you aren't excited about Fitzmagic? The beard coming to DC.
That's a good one.
Like, you know, you got to be a little excited about that one. You know the end will come. But for now, for at least a good chunk of that season, if maybe not a whole season, it's going to be fun.
DFS.
Yeah, no denying that. Yeah, that guy I can see being DFS fucking gold.
There's your DFS target for week 1 right there.
Yep.
Knew we'd get there.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay.
Yeah, I like that. Fitzmagic is great, but I'm let's say I'm putting my money on the chunk of season side.
Fair enough. But okay, so then even if Fitzmagic only does it for a chunk of the season, you still really stoked on Curtis Samuel though.
Ooh, wheels up, baby! I love me some C-Sam.
Awesome. All right, well, let's bring the mood down. You know, because that's usually good TV, usually good content. What was your least favorite free agency move so far this offseason from a fantasy perspective? Again, Nate, start with you. You've brought straight fire, a couple of these in a row now. Let's keep the trend going.
Well, there was a few disappointments, but by far my biggest was Juju going back to Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's a good one.
Without Antonio Brown on the roster, he only has 2 career 100-yard games, and we've seen the offense and Big Ben struggle mightily at the end of last year. I'm not excited about it. It's crushing from a fantasy perspective that he's going back there, in my opinion.
I love that stat you dropped there. Like, love that. I think, like, you guys have already brought so much to this show tonight, but that alone was worth the price of admission, which, let I remind you, is free. There is no price to admission. You just need an internet connection. That's it. And then you get gold like that. Smokey, can you also find us some gold? I know St. Patrick's Day already happened. We've already missed out on the pot of gold, but still, give it to me. Give me something.
I got a couple nuggets for you, and it comes in the form of tight ends. I think you know where I'm going here. I was really disappointed to see that the Patriots scooped up Jonnu and Hunter. Like, together, why? You're going to try to run the glory days of Gronk and Hernandez back? Man, this ain't the way to do it. This is Cam. I love Cam, the person. I don't entirely love Cam, the football player, at this point. It's just going to be a super low ADOT type offense where, you know, Cam's going to vulture some goal line work and everything for the first couple of weeks of the season. But who knows? Maybe COVID affected him so badly last year that it just, you know, boots the whole season. It is what it is. Season's over. Wash. But I really wanted to see Jonnu go somewhere as a feature tight end. I'm talking Jacksonville or Seattle. Those were my 2 destinations that I wanted. So to
Arizona.
see him go to Yeah, but the thing is,
Seattle
Arizona doesn't need a tight end like that. They need a big motherfucker to just stand there and block while
That's
everyone else does work, man.
So Max
That's what I'm
Williams.
saying. Yeah, I heard he's all right, and you know what? He might be familiar with the system. 2 X's.
It's true. This is true. Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. I think it's tough to beat that answer. I recently did a free agency losers article, and I'm not going to get too into it. You can go and read it for yourself. But I think this is a really important stat to keep in mind because people will be like, oh, Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, like New England's done it before. And so 2011, you're right. Gronk and Hernandez finished as tight end 1 and tight end 3. Do you know what their combined target share was? Nate, giving you first guess, and then Smokey, you. You can't look at the article. No cheating.
Oh, I'm not. No. Their target share as part of the Pats offense?
Their combined target share between just the 2 tight ends, what percentage of the Patriots targets in that 2011 season did they get?
70.
Okay, that's a little high. A little high.
I didn't know where to go. I was trying to think.
Smokey, you got an answer for me?
I mean, yeah, that was a little high, and I know something about being a little high. Let's say 48%.
Okay, you're closer. 38.79% combined.
Damn,
Nearly
that's still big, man.
Nearly 4 out of every 10 targets from the Patriots that year went to a tight end. Almost all the rest went to Wes Welker. And I'm barely joking. Like, he was the leading wide receiver on that team. It's just not happening again. And like, do you know how much they threw to all the tight ends they had last year? 6.43% target share.
27.
Oh, look at those jackoffs they had, though.
But it's still 6.43 versus 38.79.
27 targets all year.
It's bad.
That's
It's bad.
gross.
You're going to have the same coach, which admittedly, if anyone can adjust, Belichick can. But you're going to have the same quarterback, and I'm not sure Cam can adjust so well. And you know what? The last time Cam did have a top-tier tight end, it was Greg Olsen in 2016, I believe. And he threw to Greg Olsen probably about 20. I've got it actually right here. 23.33% target share for Greg Olsen. Again, compare that to 6.43. I can't see it. And even Hunter Henry last year was a tight end 12. So he's right on that fringe. 15.22% target share in Los Angeles.
Both Pats tight ends caught only 15 passes for 238 yards last year. It's horrible.
And their new tight ends, barely a tight end 1 in Henry and not a tight end 1 in Jonnu. It's just
like this for anyone.
It's not going to happen. If you don't even read the article, I just gave you a part of it for free. It's not going to happen. Please don't do it to yourself. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I feel very, very confident that in this one, I am not wrong. Well, I got to say, I had in here for a 2021 way too early preview which Patriots tight end finishes higher.
I mean, one of them's got to be higher than the other.
Do we even care? Nate, take a shot, take a stab in the dark, because that's what it is.
You could flip a coin, and you might end up right. If I had to guess, I would say Jonnu, but who knows? And who knows how higher could be still garbage.
Yeah, Smokey, what about you?
Just make sure you catch that coin on the flip, or else it could hit Hunter Henry and he'd be out for half the year. But
oh man.
But for realsies, yeah, I'd be totally on the Jonnu side on that. I think he can do more with less.
Yeah, I think my one concern there is one of the things he can do more is block.
Yeah.
And if he's blocking, that makes Henry a target. But again, I don't. It's a shot in the dark. For me, I would lean Henry, but if Jonnu did it, it wouldn't shock me. All that would shock me is if they are ranked tight end 11 or higher. That's the only things that would shock me.
That's
absolutely
fair.
Just like it would shock me personally if Kenyon Drake is an RB2 this year. Nate, I think possibly the most shocking signing of all of free agency, Kenyon Drake going to an O-line less Las Vegas Raiders. Double the running backs, double the fun. Where do you have Kenyon Drake finishing in 2021? Do you think he'll manage to be an RB2? I want to hear your thoughts.
I definitely don't. To be honest with you, I'm not even a very big proponent of Josh Jacobs with the O-line they have, let alone Kenyon Drake. So I don't think it's going to happen at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that were already down on Josh Jacobs with the O-line he had last year.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gone.
And Smokey, it seems you're in complete agreement here as well. Just reading where there's smoke, there is fire, and those facial expressions have been just pure fire all night. Where do you think Kenyon Drake's landing in 2021 when season end comes?
Oh, terrible. I just didn't. I mean, if you need depth pieces, get them. But like the two-headed monster of Kenyosh Jacobs, I am just so disinterested in, man. The little glimmer of hope that I have for Jacobs is just out the fucking window, man. They're not going to use him like they should. Like that's one of the handful of committees running back wise I'm just out on. Buffalo, Oakland, Vegas. Old habits die hard. But yeah, I just no thanks.
Okay, well, maybe some running backs we can be a little stoked on. David Montgomery, James Robinson greatly exceeded expectations in 2020. They're getting some competition for touches in 2021. Nate, which running back do you think finishes higher, Montgomery or Robinson?
I'm fully going behind Robinson on this one. I don't dislike Montgomery necessarily, but the offense is going to be worse with Dalton, and Tariq Cohen's back and healthy, and I think he's going to see a fair workload. And I've always kind of liked Robinson. I'm even higher on him this year than I was last year, so I'm going to go with Robinson.
All right, and Smokey, what do you got, Monty or Robinson?
You gotta go Robinson here. I mean, he's not going to see the volume that he did last year. I mean, it's like the volume he got last year was almost just not unprecedented, but it was up there. Like it was ridiculous, just huge. And he's not going to get that, but he doesn't need to. He's still going to be the focal point of that run game. I mean, are you worried about Carlos Hyde? I'm not. Yeah, I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to continue to do great. He was a great gem of a find for them being a UDFA. But on the Monty side of things, guess who's back in town, man? Tariq Cohen. And they like using him. And when he gets used, he produces. And with Andy Dalton back there, I mean, he's going to be getting the receiving work and stuff like that. So Monty is such an unsexy pick at the best of times. And last year, I went to bat for him. Our very first promo we ever did of the Jet Sweep show was a little 30-second cartoon clip. And it was just cartoon versions of me and Will arguing back and forth about David Montgomery. And it was in September that I dropped that. So before the season even started, and I went over all the reasons why I said you should be in on him. And they all came true during the season because Tariq Cohen going down. And I rewatched it recently. I was like, oh man, that was pretty prescient. Well, but no, James Robinson, man, 100%.
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you guys. I think it was like just expert analysis all around there. I think you hit it on the head. Montgomery is going to specifically lose work in the passing game, and Robinson will lose work all around, but like less of it. Like Hyde is going to take a little bit of passing work and a little more rushing work, but you're not that worried about it. And then like with Montgomery might get the same amount of rushing attempts or close to it, but Cohen's going to just eat into those receptions so much, and those PPR points matter. Let's stick in Jacksonville, though. I think we got two more questions, and then we'll get to the plugs. We'll wrap it up. We're coming into the end of our hour-ish, and we're getting into almost an hour and a half-ish, so get the ball rolling. But who will be the top fantasy wide receiver in Jacksonville? Nate.
I kind of took a cop-out here because I didn't necessarily pick one of them. Going back to the Jacksonville well again, I have the strong opinion that with the 25th pick in the first round, they go wide receiver. I think there's going to be a plethora of them available. They could even wait later in the draft and take a guy like Amari Rodgers or something, but I think they're going to add one more wide receiver to that really young core.
Who?
It
Name
depends on where they go in the first round. If they did it in the 25th pick, I would like to see them add St. Brown from USC. I'm a big fan of that kid. I think he'd be great there. They could do that. It's hard to know who will be available because at the end of the first round, there's going to be a big chunk or almost like a little tier there. So,
Yep.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Smokey, what about you? Who do you think will be the top fantasy wide receiver in Jacksonville?
I still think it's Chark, but this is the last year that I'm even going to be debating this question. I think Laviska takes this offense over after this, if not like 3/4 of the way through this season. The way that Urban Meyer knows how to use a player like him is just going to be a match made in heaven. In theory, I'm just gonna put that out there because we all put these expectations on these coaching systems and everything, and we don't know what the fuck's going on until we see these things in action. You see, what's going on, camp reports and all that. If camp exists as it used to, Chark for a very, very limited time, and then it's Chenault season. Wheels up, baby. I love me some Laviska.
I can fully agree with that.
So neither of you seem worried at all about Marvin Jones Jr. then.
I love Marvin Jones Jr., man. Great signing.
I love him. But as far as, the touches the other two will get, I might hurt him a little bit. Man, Jones, that's a good point. He could surprise everybody. I think he's still got plenty left in the tank, so that'll be another good DFS play.
Yeah, I think that's really my biggest concern with them. Because I think they bring in Jones for a reason.
That's a solid point.
I think they bring him in for a reason. And last year, only 3 teams supported 3 top 48 wide receivers. It was the Cowboys because Gallup snuck in there, and then the phenomenal trios in Carolina and Pittsburgh. The year before, Jacksonville did it, shockingly enough. But DJ Chark at wide receiver 17 was the only one that finished above wide receiver 37. So they had 1 wide receiver 2 and then 2 wide receiver 4s. Like, it's really tough to feed 3 guys like that. And then if they had another in the draft, a 4th guy like that. And I just have concerns that one of those 2 of Chark and Chenault, who are plenty talented, is going to suffer because of it. And I will be honest, I can't pick. I just can't. Smokey, I love your confidence in Visca. I can't pick. I can't pick who's going to come out the winner there. All right. Well, we got one more. Speaking of wide receivers, the big wide receiver free agent signing, the one everyone was waiting for, was Kenny Golladay, and he signed with the Giants. Nate, will Kenny Golladay be a wide receiver 1?
My heart wants to say yes, but my mind tells me it'll probably not happen with Danny Dimes throwing in the ball. He, make no mistake about it, he's the best receiver they have signed since Golden Tate was 30 years old. So I think it'll be close, but I don't think it'll happen.
Smokey, what about you?
He will be a wide receiver 1 on the New York Giants. That's about as far as I'm going to go with that. I think the beneficiary of this signing was Daniel Jones. He needed a deep threat, get those contested catches. Kenny was a good signing for that, but fucking Kenny gonorrhea, man. Fuck the Giants.
I think another guy, I'll probably get murdered on Twitter for this, but I think it'll benefit Sterling Shepard a lot too.
Yep. Yeah, take that pressure off him.
For that. I think that's great. I totally see. I think it hurts Darius Slayton more than it hurts Sterling Shepard, especially because I think Sterling Shepard's the better wide receiver of the 2.
So do I.
I don't know that it's that close. I think Darius Slayton is closer to MVS than he is like kind of anyone else, and he's just unlucky that he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Smokey, that's the take a little spicy for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to grab a little something to wash that down.
Well, while you wash that down, Nate, thank you so much for coming. It's been a blast. We have crushed that hour-ish. We are well in to an hour and a half-ish. Why don't you go ahead, plug your stuff. Let us know what you got coming up. Again, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
I really appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun. You can catch me on Twitter at Nate Williams DFS. You can find a lot of content once you get there. Next week, I got a show coming up with Nick at Play to Win Fantasy on Tuesday night. So check me out there next week.
Awesome. And Smokey, what do you got? We know we've talked about it a little, but I'm going to let you do the full plug. Go nuts.
Side note before I start, I just want to say Nick from Play to Win is fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, he's wicked. So for my stuff, let's just make this short and sweet. If you want my perspective on things, come check out the Jet Sweep show. We are slightly reformatting. So last year we were doing the Sunday night football halftime show. So we would live stream the second halftime starts. We would do our thing, and then you go back and watch the game. This year it's going to be on Monday nights, and it's just going to be 15 minutes. That's it, just during halftime, and then we'll also have an offline recording part that will be the other part of the podcast. So yeah, that's going to be fun. You can find us on Twitter at Jet Sweep Show. And then the return of the Smoke Show. This relaunch has been about 8 months in the making, so I've been doing a lot of work on this. I'm very excited to be bringing it back to the people in this new form. So it's going to be purely interview-centric, micro interviews, feature interviews with some fairly big names. Had rank on there. We're going to have Matt Harmon, Joe Pisapia, Joe Dolan. I can round down the list, but this is your podcast, not mine. Just stay.
Let's call it what it is. Not fairly big names. These are big names, man. This is awesome.
That's great, man. For real.
Continue to drop. Let the people know.
No. It's honestly, it's an honor to be able to, sit down and shoot the shit with these people and just, pick their brains a bit and see what life is like for them on the other side of this fun screen. But you can find the Smoke Show at _smoke_show. The relaunch episode, like I said, is going to be coming up on Monday the 29th. And I cannot be more excited. And there's a huge announcement coming next Friday. I can't say anything more than that, but it has to do with the Smoke Show. So stay tuned for that.
You can't give us just a taste, a little breaking news. I don't ever get to break shit. I'm not Adam Schefter. I have no sources. I don't get to break anything. I have to try and be witty on the internet. Come on. Give me something, Joshy.
Unfortunately, I have signed a contract which forbids me from disclosing anything.
Nothing I haven't heard before.
This is literally killing me inside. I'm bubbling up with hype and intensity for this news to drop, but it's going to be awesome.
Well, we will definitely have to keep an eye out for that. I am just excited for you, truly. And again, thank you so much for coming on. As always, yes, don't forget, at True North FFB is the home of both of these amazing people. You gotta go. You gotta check it out. Ton of awesome content. If you also want some awesome content, you can go to Lateral and check that out as well. It's thelateralff.com. We're dropping some content. We got Zach doing the writing. We got me doing the writing. We got Herms doing the writing. We did some free agency losers recently. Free agency winners are coming up. I am going to be doing a perfect draft series. I'm basically going to conduct as scientific as possible an experiment as to whether or not I can go back and construct the perfect draft for 2020. And what I mean by that is I want to try and use logic rather than hindsight. So I don't get to pick James Robinson with a round 13 pick, knowing that nobody else would be touching him there, and then have him turn out to be RB4. I want to try and stick to ADP. Something like Le'Veon Bell was going RB18, but Melvin Gordon was going RB20. One of those was a really good pick. The other, not so much. So that article should be coming in the next week or so. It's basically done, but we got our own content schedule we want to work with. But that's going to be weeks of stuff coming out. I'm very excited about it. I genuinely I cannot wait. And you can always find me at McLateral FF. I think that is
Did someone say Herms before? I heard something about
It
Herms.
was
There
about
he is.
damn time.
I did not do this. This is not me controlling things.
Oh,
What's
it's not
going
me
on?
either. We have the Lateral bot.
This is
behind the
true.
scenes
We
doing-
do
yeah.
have the lateral bot.
It's the best $13 we've ever spent. I mean, honestly, wow, amazing. But I wanted to pop in and make sure that everybody knows. For those watching live, tune in tomorrow night. I believe at 7 p.m. The show with no name with our friend Jesse. We're not doing Saturday this week because he has prior engagements. Episode 2 of the show with no name tomorrow. We're going to break down the free agents that we didn't talk about before and then go over some winners and losers as we've been doing in our articles over here at The Lateral. What's up? Hey, boom, look at us doing fantasy football content.
And I think you can also catch that somewhere else after it's on YouTube, after it's on Twitter. You can go to our Spotify. We have a Spotify. And not only will the show with no name be there, but tonight's episode of the Lateral Weekly Variety Hour-ish will be there as well.
Boom.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to be doing that actually with all the episodes of this show going forward. We've been working to make it as good an audio format, audio content as we can, given that it is primarily a live stream. But I think we have it nailed down. We're going to do it retroactively as well for last week's episode that we had with the poll votes, which was a great interview. In case you missed it, highly recommend. And then we'll also be doing it for Herms and Jesse with their show with no name. So definitely check us out on Spotify as well as YouTube and Twitter and the blog and this and that and the other. And Herms, you got anything else?
You can find me with the show with no name. You can also find me on Twitter at HermsNFL. And as was stated earlier, the Lateral at the Lateral FF, www.thelateralff.com. If you go, I finally learned how to integrate linking off to our YouTube and our little Spotify thing. So, please subscribe. I know that helps us make money eventually, and I would really like to get paid to do this.
Do I have to do like and subscribe now? Am I going to have to be one of those guys?
Ring the bell.
I think that's probably what we're going to have to. I mean, I know we're not, the greatest professionals in the world, but maybe we should step it up a little bit. I don't know. Got to get that money. Shout out ODB, RIP. But yeah. I don't know. I guess that's really about it. But sadly, instead of the traditional mouth sounds, I decided to program music that we have as the intro and the outro. So for those of you that will
Sadly
be
is not the descriptor I would have used for that, Herms.
yeah, but for those of you who will be listening to this in an audio format, I hope you enjoy the fun little tunes that we made. So there you go. That's the thing I have to say. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Go home. It's over. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace.